What's up, guys? This your boy Lazarian back on YouTube already. Hey, first of all, go subscribe to my brother, the T-Ball, and the Late Show. They got some great NBA content. Them fellas know they basketball. So everybody go subscribe to those brothers' channel, the T-Ball and the Late Show. Those are my guys. I talk basketball with them, so shouts out to both of those guys. Anyway, this topic is about Chris Paul. Did he deserve that contract he got? 4 years, $160 million. I know it was a big risk because his injury history. He had a terrible hamstring injury last year in Game 5 in the Western Conference Finals. I think if he wouldn't have got hurt, we would have beat the Golden State Warriors, regardless in 6 or 7 games. There was no way in hell we were going to lose that series without Chris Paul. Golden State got a history of people being injured while playing them. So Chris Paul, everybody got to realize Chris Paul is a big part of this team. We don't get to the Western Conference Finals without Chris Paul in that Utah series, when Donovan Mitchell started acting a fool and being a beast. We don't get to the Western Conference Finals. That first round against Minnesota, it would have been more closer. We'd have beat them, but it would have been more closer. That Utah series, I believe we'd have lost if we just had James Harden. I think that was a must re-sign Chris Paul back, so you got to take a gamble. You got to take a big risk. I know injury. He hasn't played a full season. But Chris Paul is a good secondary player to James Harden. I think he's a good shooter, good passer, a dog on defense. He made some huge shots for us. He had a huge Game 3 against Utah. He had a huge Game 4 against Utah. And he had a beast of a Game 5 against Utah to end the series. If it wasn't for his Game 5 in Utah, when James Harden stunk it up and was struggling, we'd have been going back to Utah for Game 6. And then Game 5, we wouldn't have won Game 5 to go up 3-2 in the series against the Golden State Warriors when he was hitting every shot in America in that third and fourth quarter. He carried us in Game 5. James Harden stunk up the joint. He stunk up the place. So I think Chris Paul deserves it. But then again, it's a high risk because it's injury history. Chris Paul has been a good part of this team. And I never seen Chris Paul so happy before. I never seen him. Him and James Harden is the second best backcourt in the NBA. They the best backcourt in the NBA. They proved that last year with a full season. Chris Paul, James Harden, and Clint Capella on the same floor. The Rockets lost 5 games with them 3 on the same floor. So they're a good team with Chris Paul on the same floor. Everybody said it's not enough balls to go around in Houston. They thought Chris Paul didn't coexist. Well, they showed you that. But I think Chris Paul is definitely deserved that contract. It's a high risk because he hasn't played a full season, but he deserves it. We would not made it to the Western Conference Finals without Chris Paul. He's a vocal leader. He's a great leader. He's a good coach on the court. He's a quarterback on the floor. He's like a quarterback in the NFL. He's the leader of your team. He knows this is James Harden's team. So that's good that James Harden got Chris Paul. They both need each other. If everybody watched the Rockets game. When James Harden is struggling, Chris Paul is on fire. When Chris Paul is struggling, James Harden is on fire. So everybody has to realize that they both feed it off each other. So if Chris Paul, the Rockets wouldn't be in the Western Conference Finals. Chris Paul deserves that contract, but it's a high risk. So everybody please like and subscribe on my YouTube channel. Again, shouts out to the T-Ball and to the Late Show. Shouts out to those brothers. Everybody subscribe to their YouTube channel.